you exit, please be careful of the gap between the platform and the train. Transfer is available to the J and Z trains.
Hello everyone, today is April 1st, 2019, around 5 o'clock p.m. Outside temperature is about 47 degrees Fahrenheit. I just got off a 5 express train at the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall station. This station was originally named just Brooklyn Bridge, but it was renamed to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall after the City Hall Loop station closed in 1945. Due to low ridership and also lack of functionality due to the longer standards of the subway cars. You're still able to see the City Hall Loop station if you stay on a downtown 6 train at Brooklyn Bridge City Hall as it makes this turn around. But I'll be doing a walking tour of the New York Civic Center, the New York City Civic Center. So this side of the station is actually the BMT Nassau Street line, the J and Z trains. So right now I'm exiting at the Manhattan Municipal Building entrance or exit. This is the South Arcade featuring the Gustavino tiles. Very beautiful tiles, and as I turn around you can see the old lettering of the subway entrance. So the address of this building, the Manhattan Municipal Building, also known as the David N. Dinkins Municipal Building, is 1 Center Street. And as I turn my camera to the left here, once I get past this arch, you can see why this station is called Brooklyn Bridge, because the Brooklyn Bridge is right there. And that bridge connects Manhattan to Brooklyn, the New York Civic Center to downtown Brooklyn, and Dumbo, which stands for District down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. So here's the Manhattan Municipal Building, South Arcade. I'm gonna walk over to the front and I'll tell you some history about the Manhattan Municipal Building. It was originally just called the Municipal Building, and then it was the Manhattan Municipal Building. It's 40 stories tall, and it was built to increase the governmental space due to the 1898 consolidation of the city's 5 boroughs. So it's 40 stories tall. It also features a statue at the top, a copper statue called the Civic Fame, which I can't see from this angle, but maybe I will when I make a left here and go farther away. So the architecture of this building is many different styles. It's described as French Renaissance, Roman Imperial, Italian Renaissance, or even Beaux Arts. It also served as the prototype for the Terminal Tower in Cleveland, the Wrigley Building in Chicago, and Seven Sisters in Moscow. This building is home to over 2,000 employees from a dozen municipal agencies and nearly 1 million square feet of office space. The construction on the building began in 1907 and ended in 1914. So right now I'm crossing the street here. There's a vehicle on the crosswalk. I have to be a little careful here.
Yeah, what did you do for a radio station?
So this area is called the Civic Center because there's many governmental buildings around here, Here's the New York City surrogate sport. And I'm going to turn the camera around and you can see the grandeur of the Manhattan Municipal Building. Finally, I get to see the Civic Fame at the top. It's copper clad and it's the second largest statue in Manhattan. The first being the Statue of Liberty. The actual New York City Hall is actually in the City Hall Park, just a few feet away from me, down where I'm pointing the camera, but I'll come back to that later. If you didn't know, if you just came out of the subway station, you would think the Manhattan Municipal Building was the City Hall just due to its size, but actually it's a different building. So the street I'm walking on right now is Chambers Street. It runs east to west in Manhattan, and it goes all the way to the west side where it meets the Hudson River at Battery Park City. So this building is the second oldest governmental building in New York City. It is the Tweed Courthouse, or maybe what was known as the Tweed Courthouse. Now it is home to the New York City Department of Education. But let me see what I can look when I'm walking up these stairs. The Tweed Courthouse's functionality was replaced by the other courthouses that are north on Center Street. And I just saw a sign inside the Tweed Courthouse, only for New York City Department of Education employees only. So doesn't seem to be serving as a courthouse at all. It's not open to the public. But very impressive building. Tweed Courthouse restoration in 1999 to 2001, according to the engravings in that stone there. There's a lot of renovations happening on this building. So the Manhattan, the New York City Civic Center is surrounded by 4 neighborhoods. Tribeca, which stands for Triangle Below Canal Street on the west, which is on the other side of Broadway. Chinatown to the north, 2 Bridges to the east, and that's called 2 Bridges because it's between the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges, or the general boundaries that define the neighborhood, and in the south by the financial district, otherwise colloquially known as Wall Street. So there's actually many more government agencies across the street on Broadway. I'm not too certain which agencies are housed in which area. Maybe you can get a glimpse of the One World Trade Center through my camera, otherwise known as the Freedom Tower. Right now it is currently the largest building in New York City. So at Warren Street and Broadway, there's an entrance here to the City Hall Park. I'll just take a walk through this park and show you what the Tweed Courthouse looks like from the back. and also the New York City City Hall. So here it is, the impressive Tweed Courthouse from the rear side. And here is New York City City Hall. Unfortunately, the public is not allowed around the grounds around City Hall because there's a fence here with security officers. But at least you can still see the building from the exterior. Here's the Tweed Courthouse again. And maybe now you can get a glimpse of the Civic Fame statue at the top of the Municipal building there. On one of the arches of the Municipal building is actually etched New Amsterdam. New York was originally called New Amsterdam because the Dutch colonized it. Here's a old elevator building that's been kept in pretty good shape. Looks like the birds have put it to good use though already. This is the entrance to the Brooklyn Bridge walkway and bikeway. There's also another one that's not used as often on the Park Row exit. But in order to get to that exit, you actually have to walk around and come back down. Across the street from me is Pace University. Here's New York City Hall from the side, the left side. So this street is called Park Row. Park Row is actually very popular back in the day for the newspaper industry and newspaper publishing. Many of the newspaper companies arose in 1835 after the invention of the steam press. So here you are. This is a security entrance to the New York City Hall. I think this is probably the best view we can get of the building itself without actually going in. For people who are curious, the City Hall Loop Station entrance is actually right by that security booth with the right by the security booth with the police officer. Occasionally it's open for group tours and other special events, but it is still functioning. Right now I'm pointing my camera up at 1 Beekman Street. It is constantly going under construction, and once it's finished it will be one of the tallest skyscrapers in this area. So I'm gonna make a right here into City Hall Park again, the southern section of City Hall Park. It's not connected to the northern section due to the closure of the New York City Hall grounds. There's an individual feeding squirrels right there. The squirrel just climbed on his leg. Just goes to show you how comfortable these squirrels are for these New York City residents. This squirrel is not afraid at all. Hi there. So in front of me is the City Hall Park fountain. During the warmer months they actually turn it on, but when it gets colder they decorate it, which is pretty cool. That way they don't let the space go vacant. Add some festivity. So I'm going to make my way to the southern part of City Hall Park, and I'll show you the border with the financial district. Occasionally this park will have art exhibits and different other artistic styles around here on display. So right now I'm looking down Broadway at the financial district. This is the border of City Hall with the financial district. This is Park Row and Broadway. So where I'm pointing my camera now is a very, very historical building. I'm just going to get in position a little bit before I point my camera up. Now this building across the street from me used to be the tallest building in the world from 1913 to 1930. And it is called the Woolworth Building. Even currently, it's still one of the top 100 buildings in the United States. It's called the Woolworth Building because it was originally conceived by the founder of Woolworths, which is a popular brand of 5 and 10 cent stores. And this was the headquarters of the company. Now it is a New York City designated landmark and also a National Historic Landmark. So here's the western entrance of City Hall Park. I'm walking up Broadway right now. As I point my camera to the right side of the New York City Hall, it's the center of the New York City government. It's the oldest city hall in the United States that still houses its original governmental functions. It was built in 1811 and has undergone many renovations throughout the years. It combines two different architecture styles: French Renaissance in the exterior and American Georgian in the interior. Here's the only station which is named City Hall Station right now on the BMT Broadway line. The R and W trains serve this train stop. This area in general is very accessible by public transportation. And just as a general note, there's actually two stations named Brooklyn Bridge. Make sure you don't get off at the wrong one if you want to visit Lower Manhattan, because the other Brooklyn Bridge subway stop is called High Street Brooklyn Bridge, and that one's located in Brooklyn. Only Brooklyn Bridge City Hall is located in Manhattan. But you can also take this subway station, the City Hall Station. Also, the 2 and 3 trains stop in the Civic Center via the Park Place exit, as well as the BMT Nassau Street line, the J and Z trains, which is actually part of the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall subway station complex. They're both connected. I'm walking north on Broadway. In a little while I'll make a turn and show you the federal building there, and also the Marriage Bureau and the federal courts. Building is just completely surrounded with scaffolding, as well as the other side and the next block and the block across the street from the next block. Very dangerous to cross against the light like that when vehicles are still moving. That truck was very close to reversing into this van here. Okay, now pedestrians have the traffic light. here's the Ted Weiss Federal Building. I'm gonna walk down Duane Street and show you a little bit of the historical significance of this building as well as the area here. A lot of administrative offices here. There's a picture of our president and vice president on the wall. So I'm pointing my camera to the right here. There's actually a lot of monuments for the African burial ground. So back in 1991, when they were constructing this federal building, they found a burial ground for many undocumented African Americans who were buried here. And it's actually the largest burial ground for African Americans in the world. It's estimated around 15,000 to 20,000 African Americans. Well, I guess back then they didn't really have American citizenship because they were slaves, or I don't really know their circumstances, but 15,000 to 20,000 Africans are buried here. This is the largest cemetery in the area. I remember hearing a news story. Someone actually vandalized the burial ground monument not too long ago. They're actually doing some renovations to it. It's really a shame that they would do that. Here you can read some different texts about the African burial ground. So I'm actually entering what I like to call the New York City Courts District. Across the street from me is the United States Courthouse, the Thurgood Marshall Courthouse. It's a classic revival courthouse. The address is 40 Center Street on Foley Square. That's the name of this area proper. And it was built in 1932 and opened in 1936. Originally, it was known as the Foley Square Courthouse. And across the street from it is the New York State Supreme Court Courthouse. It's also called the New York County Courthouse or the New York State Supreme Court Building. It's different because that one's a federal courthouse and that one is the state courthouse. And here's another courthouse for international trade. So I'm going to make a little bit of a walk through Foley Square Park, just to the northern end of the park. Well, it's called the Thomas Paine Park, but it's in Foley Square. This building in front of me is a city-owned building. I think it used to be a jail. I don't remember the name, but now it's home to the New York City Department of Sanitation. I know it has its headquarters in the building. And actually behind the prison, or used to be the prison, was the collect pond. Originally Manhattan had a pond here and it provided drinking water for everybody who lived here, but it became so polluted over the years that it was filled in. Here there's a lot of construction here. It looks like they're doing work on the pipes and digging up the roadways. A lot of chaos here. Aging infrastructure needs repairs. What can I say? Here's a state office building. It's also home to the New York City Marriage Bureau. I've seen people come out here in wedding gowns and suits saying their vows and taking pictures right over here. So there's the tallest building in New York City, One World Trade Center, also known as the Freedom Tower. The Manhattan Municipal Building with the Civic Fame statue on top. The New York State Supreme Court House. And the Thurgood Marshall United States Courthouse. Both of these buildings, architecture is very impressive, to say the least.
Also, who wrote it? Alan, our good friend Alan Megan. Didn't he write that shit? I don't know. I saw Alan Megan talk about it, I'm not gonna lie. And I definitely remember.
You can see a lot of netting here. Looks like they're trying to protect the exterior from the elements or falling pieces. So here's the view of Foley Square from the south. I'm going to be making a left here and walking behind the Manhattan Municipal Building. Here's a Catholic church, the Catholic Church of St. Andrew. It was established in 1842, so a very, very old church. It's been here for a long, long time already. Actually, the building itself was constructed in 1939, but looks like it was established in 1842 according to an article I'm reading. Here's the Manhattan Municipal Building from the backside. And to the left of me and in front of me is Police Plaza, the headquarters of the New York City Police Department. So let's give NYPD a little visit. So underneath the Police Plaza is Park Row. This street used to be open to the public and motor vehicle traffic, but it's ever since the September 11th, 2001 attacks, it's been closed to motor vehicle traffic, except for local buses and VIPs and police. Only recently did they reopen the Park Road to pedestrians, cyclists, and other people on foot. But otherwise, it still remains closed to motor vehicle traffic. The residents of Chinatown have really hated it since it was closed to motor vehicle traffic, as it was a main link for their community. Here's the visitors entrance to the police headquarters. I'm sure if you're going in there, you have to go through a metal detector and lots of security checkpoints. So this is the back side of the Manhattan Municipal Building. I'm going to walk right underneath the arch, or the main arch rather.
Stop laughing. And then when people laugh at you or they be mean to you, you upset. You wonder why. The treatment that you give people is the treatment you get back. It's karma. What comes around goes. You're not going to want that type of energy on you. You don't give that energy to other people. That's the whole thing, like teaching people. Don't teach nobody. You don't want nobody to teach you.
That parent is giving some very valuable life lessons to the child. Don't do to other people that you don't want to do to yourself. Karma always comes around. So here's a lot of different tiles. There's netting here, presumably because it's very delicate and it's hard to maintain. Wow, it's even leaking here. Just goes to show you the building's age. Okay, well, this concludes my narrated tour of the New York City Civic Center. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for some more videos, and I'll catch you all next time.